Good morning to all the children of class 6, Karnataka state syllabus. In today's session, I will be just giving you information on body movements in living beings. It is chapter 8 in your textbook. I hope you will understand some of the points I discuss here. When we say body movements, it refers to either the entire body, like in the human beings or in animals, moving from one place to place, or like running, jumping, bending your body, holding things, and movement of various parts of the body may be called movements. And in case of higher plants, like the plants and trees which are held in the soil, fixed to the soil, they do not show the entire body movement, they only show part movement. For example, roots will go down and the flowers will open. Like that, some parts of the plants may be moving. Other animals, like small animals like butterfly or the bees, or some of these earthworm, or some of these animals which are very small, can also show body movements, but there is a lot of difference between the body structure of these organisms, and therefore the body movements may change. When we think of the body movements, we always say now in this chapter only for human beings. I hope you will try to understand the different parts of the body which help in our body movement. Come, let's go and study what is there in your textbook. I will further explain to you that all living beings have the capacity to move, either the whole body or parts of the body. Very small one-cell animals like amoeba and other unicellular animals show the entire body movement, though parts in their own cell might also show movement, but we will not consider those things here. Since you are human beings and we would like to know more and more about our own body, therefore we talk about our body parts. Higher plants are fixed to the soil and only some parts of their body might show movement. Animals are capable of moving the entire body and parts of the body like human beings. I told you earlier, jumping, running, holding things, bending your body, all these things are movements, and these movements are definitely due to what are called joints. Joints are nothing but the meeting place of two bones or more small bones. In the human body, when a newborn child takes place its birth, it may have more than 305 bones. As the age up comes to the adult stage, some of the bones will fuse. They fuse together and form and will have 206 bones. So today, adults will have 206 bones, and these bones may meet in one end and to the other end, and such a place where two bones meet, we call it joints, and joints help in the movement of the body. In this chapter, most of the time is spent in your books for explaining the joints in the human body. We have specialized joints for body movements. Movement is caused by joints, and joints are made by bones. And sometimes bones are connected by small muscle fibers and also cartilages, and at these places there may be some fluids. Most important thing you must know is the skeleton. Skeleton is made up of bones, and this skeleton gives you framework for attachment of muscles and also helps in protecting the inner parts of the body, and it gives you the nature to be stand erect and move, etc. Backbone helps in bending and other things. Now let's see how a skeleton looks like in the human beings. Look at this. I have given you 3 diagrams of the human skeleton. If you look at it, number 1 shows he is having the hands on the waist, and then second he is trying to move, and the third one the skeleton is trying to move. That means the entire movement of the body depends upon the joints. I have shown here in red color 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 9 different joints that are present in our body. If you look at the skeleton carefully, skeleton is made up of bones of all types, long bones, short bones, and the skull having flat bones. So there are all these bones joined together to form a skeleton, and when 2 or more bones join together, that forms the joints. For example, elbow has a joint, and kneecap has a joint, ribs have joints, skull has joints, lower jaw is a joint. So these joints are known by names. Let us see how the names are given for these joints. Let us see your textbook and find out the names. Here again, I have shown you joints in a diagram. You need not write the diagram, but try to remember at least the names of those joints. I have shown here 1 in green, 1 in red, 2 in green, 3 in yellow, 4 in blue, 5 in red brown, and 6 also in yellow. These are the joints. Number 1 is called the ball and the socket joint. If you look at where is the ball and socket joint, at your hip bones, where your hip bone is there, where that your leg can rotate in different parts, and that is called the ball and socket joint. And the second one, what we see, is in the neck region, and it is called the pivot joint. And the third one is seen called in the elbow, it's called the hinge joint. And the fourth one is called saddle joint. This saddle joint is seen near your fingers. The fifth one is called plane joint, and that is in the foot near where our toes are there. Sixth one is called known as Condyloid Joint. Name is difficult. You need not worry about it. You can just call Condyloid Joint. It is again seen near your fingers. So at least you remember the names like ball and socket joint, important. Then pivot joint, important. Hinge joint, important. Plane joint, important. Saddle joint, important. And then one more I have not shown is the skull. Skull has joints, but these joints are fixed. The bones of the skull are flat and they form the brain box. Only one part in the skull that is capable of movement, and that is the lower jaw. This jaw can move, and the entire upper portion is made up of flat bones, and these bones are fixed, they cannot move. So let's see once again in the next slide how the names have to be written and read. You need not write and practice the diagrams of these skeletal bones. I will repeat here. If someone were to ask you a question, what is a joint? Your answer should be, joint is a place where two bones meet, or sometimes smaller bones, more than 3 or 4 smaller bones might meet, or sometimes flat bones will form a cavity-like structure. That is the meaning of the word joint. They help in movement. The movement may be up and down movement, or rotation movement, or like the hinge movement, or like just the up and down movement. So different types of movements are there in your body. Let's try to remember the names of these joints again. First one, ball and socket joint. That is present not only in your legs area but also in the shoulder, this area, shoulder. So you can rotate your shoulder the way you like. And then pivotal joint is in the neck area. You can move your head like this. That is called a pivotal joint. The entire head is rest on one bone, and that is the neck bone in the neck, and that is the backbone comes near that, and there is a small bone called atlas bone. On that, the entire skull, it's about 8 or 10 kilos, your head that sits on that, and that can move up and down. And then hinge joint. Hinge joint is seen in this portion. You can see this portion movement up and down movement. It's called the hinge joint. And then fixed joints. Skull, I explained to you. Skull is the area where flat bones make what's called the brain box or the cranium, and inside that brain box there is the brain. So that is the fixed joints are there. Saddle joint near the palm. Here, this is the palm, and in this area there are joints called long bones are there. These bones are long bones. They are called saddle joint. And then plain joint is seen near the ankle, inside your ankle. And then condyloid joint is in the forehand. Here, small muscles are there in this area. These muscles and also cartilage and bones start moving, and they are called sometimes carpals. So remember the names of these bones and what is there, where they are. I will repeat them. Joints in human body, at least remember: one, ball and socket joint, pivotal joint, hinge joint, fixed joints. These are the 4 joints given in your textbooks. In this chapter, what are the important points you must remember from the point of view of your examination? One is skeleton and cartilages give shape and framework to our body. Our body's shape, how we stand, and how our face looks like, all these are due to the bones. And bones are organized in such a way that it gives the framework, shape and strength to our body. Movement of the body or movement of the different parts of the body is possible because of the joints. Skeleton has the skull. The skull is the area where the entire face and the brain is situated. It's called the skull, which has got skull. It has got a backbone. A long backbone is there, and that backbone has vertebra, and that also shows some movements. Ribs are the flat bones protecting the heart and the lungs. It's called bronchial basket or chest cavity. That's the ribs are present. The hip bone and the bones of the hands and the legs. All these will make the skeleton, and they also have joints. Meeting of bone ends, sometimes we can call it as joint. What is a joint? If someone were to ask a small question, don't get confused. You say when two bones meet, and that place is called joint. That helps in the movement. Different types of bones and shapes, have shapes. These bones, when they meet, they start moving. Alright, now let's try to ask some question and try to answer them. What do you understand by the term joint? You have to explain. Joint is a place where two or small bones meet, and these joints help in movement. At the place of joints, there may be muscle fibers or some fluids. They help in smooth movements. How is skeleton made? Skeleton of the human body is made of bones of different shapes and sizes, and there are 206 bones in an adult human being. What is the function of muscles in movement? Muscles, especially muscle fibers, help in contracting and relaxing. When they contract and relax, the joints start moving, and due to voluntary and involuntary activity of the muscles, we can run, we can jump, we can hold. So all these types of movements is possible due to the combined and coordinated function of nervous system, muscular system and joints. Where do you see fixed joints? Fixed joints are seen in the skull or the cranium or the brain box in our head, and only one part of the skull is moving, that is the lower jaw. This is the lower jaw. This is the only one that moves in the skull. What is ball and socket joint? Ball and socket joint is a joint that helps in the rotation of the joint. For example, the arm. When you see cricket bowlers, they bowl and they can move their arm, full arm, in any way they like, and that's why it's called the ball and socket joint. Which part of the skull bone has movement? The skull, as I said, the entire head region is called the skull. Skull is the name given to the skeleton of the head, and only one part that is able to move is the lower jaw. Which part of the skull bone moves? I told you it is the lower jaw. How many joints are given in your book list? In your textbook, only 4 joints names are given. Try to remember those things. One is called the ball and the socket joint, the pivot joint, hinge joint, and the fixed joint. Which part of the skeleton has hinge joint? Hinge joint, elbow is an example for hinge joint. It moves up and down. It cannot go bend backwards. So try to remember these things. Read your textbook once. Your textbook is written in the form of a conversation, so you may not be able to understand much except unless you read 3 or 4 times. I hope you understand now these questions. If you start answering now and try to remember, you can answer all questions on joints. While preparing this video, I got some pictures, beautiful pictures from online, and my credits goes to them, especially Bing and Common Creatives. I used content from the state textbook. For the textbook also I am grateful. My credit goes to them. Google, I got the content from the Google. For them I am grateful. I thank you all. I also would like to thank the YouTube for publishing this particular video. Thank you.